What's up out there, everybody? Hey, this is G-Man for another episode of What's the Matter podcast, recorded right here, live streaming on the Podbean from the Matterhorn studio in beautiful downtown Nevada. Today, we, of course, as normal, have the beautiful Kel right across from me. How you doing, Kel? Oh, wait, gosh, that's the second week in a row. Man, that is crazy. I'm gonna have to like start writing stuff down. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good. So I am doing great. Doing great.
Yeah. Now, last week I forgot to ask you about your trip to Shasta too.
It was awesome. We had a really good time. I haven't been on vacation in a long time, and it was a nice getaway. It was a conference. It was a working vacation, but it was awesome. A friend of mine was one of the channelers. It was mostly a channel panel. And a friend of mine was one of the channelers, but we hadn't met in person yet. And so that was cool. I got to meet him. His name's Tony Ghazi, and he lives in DC. And I saw there was another speaker there by the name of Jamie Price, who I didn't know she was going to be there. So that was exciting to get to meet her because she activated me. She was one of the two channelers that activated me into light language and a couple years ago. So that was really cool too. And I got to buy a deck of her cards, and she signed them and gave me a reading for free. So
how
really
much is
powerful.
the reading normally?
She normally doesn't even really do them. But when she sells a card deck, she'll see what comes through. So that was,
and you needed that vacation too.
I really did. I
Yeah.
really did. And I was able to take it. Like I didn't hardcore do the conference. Saturday was a whole full day of channelers, and I blew them all off. I'm like, yeah, that's okay. I can catch
Well, it's good to have you back.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, in the studio today, we are going to talk about episode 16 is what's the matter with drug cartels, and we may hit on some of that aspect, certainly. But hour one, kind of want to pun this as the blunt force reality, between drug cartels and, the cannabis industry, legal and illegal, and, some of the corporate pushback that's really, or government pushback. Let's put it like that. So today we're definitely sparking up the conversation. It's going to burn through a little bit of smoke and mirrors of the marijuana legality, as I mentioned, cartels, a little bit of stigma, some systematic pressures on independent cannabis owners. And that being said, I want to introduce Mr. Ed Alexander here. Welcome, Ed, to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, and of course, we have one of our semi-regulars, Art Arreola, in the studio also. So how you doing, Art? You enjoying your trip to Reno?
Doing great, G. It's so good to be back here in Reno and in the studio working with you guys.
We are so glad to have you back in town. It's nice having you on the phone, but this is the best.
Right?
I just had one quick question. Kel said that, she didn't realize that some of the channelers were going to be there. I figure you should be able to channel yourself so that everybody knows you're coming. So do you lose any channeling credibility if your channel isn't strong enough?
It doesn't work. That's not how it works.
Okay. I was just trying to get it straightened out here, because if a psychic medium loses my name, I sometimes...
Channeling and mediumship and psychic are three different things.
Okay. All right. Yes. Clearly, I'm uneducated on all three.
You're going to learn a lot.
Says, honey, I need some cards and a reading.
There you go. I have a deck with me.
Oh, yes.
There you go.
Right.
I love it. We're making things happen here. But Ed, hey, we're going to talk about, like I mentioned, everything from cartels to, kind of your corporate cannabis and kind of like who's really controlling the pun intended high ground, so to speak. And so, let's start out with, basically the question I've been waiting a few days to ask you, and that is, are you high right now?
No more so than any time, Mr. G.
Okay. Just mention, hey, I want you guys to know he's owner
at baseline.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Soul Cannabis Dispensary in Washoe Valley. Phone number 775-451-7290. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. And the address is 275. It's the old US 395, which is a fantastic drive.
Beautiful.
Just past the candy shop.
Yeah, it may take you a few minutes longer, but it's definitely worth it. 10 minutes?
Yeah,
something like that, maybe, depending.
I can get there in
that.
about 20 minutes from here. 25 minutes.
I mean, I tell people that if you go to any shop in town, by the time you figure parking and the rest of the shenanigans, it's quicker to come down and see us in Soul.
Yeah, and it's
for
a
the
beautiful
quality.
campus. It really is.
It's just worth it for better weed.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the quality of the people that work there.
100%. Greatest team in the world.
Yeah. So let's see. So let's give everybody a little bit of background. Okay, now you've been a Nevada native for a long time, longer than you're here longer than I've been here, and that's close to 30 years.
5 generations from my family.
There you go. Okay, and you used to work at one of our or kind of a corporate structure that everybody knows about, Western Nevada Supply.
Yeah, I spent about 25 years with the Revilio family. And And they taught me everything I needed to know about community and taking care of those around you. And then in good times and bad, the community, rallies around companies that rally around them.
Yeah, and I've had quite a
Portfolios.
Yeah, and I've had quite a few friends over the years at great company. And so let's visit back that time right there where you were thinking about getting into the cannabis industry. How did that story unfold?
So I discovered at a very young age that I was allergic to alcohol. I kept breaking out in handcuffs and cocaine. And so for me, I wanted something to take the edge off.
Right.
And cannabis always seemed like a much safer choice. Like I tell people, I'm the father of a couple of adult children at this point, and
Right.
while I never endorsed the behavior when they were younger, I said, hey guys, I've never seen a cannabis elevated human being mistake yes for no. I've never seen, there's an old cute adage that, 5 drunk guys start a fight, 5 stone guys start a band. So
Love it.
to me, I just looked at it, basically from a very young age. It calmed my mind to the point that I felt this is how everybody else feels. It allowed me to process my thoughts in a more correct way. The entire time that I was at Western Nevada Supply, which they're not going to be excited, it was like, hey, Ed didn't ever come up in a random drug test because they didn't want to lose what effectively accounted for a good portion of their revenue while I was there. Mm-hmm. And it was beautiful for me to be able to take a good, long-standing family and show them that, hey, normal, good, upstanding people may choose cannabis over Crown Royal.
Yeah.
I remember when we did our open house down at Seoul, I was involved in some dialogue with some folks, and they're like, oh God, that lazy stoner. And I said, yeah, I know this one lazy stoner. He designed, built, and now operates this place that you're standing in. And they're like, well, who's that? And I said, oh, that's me. And if you think about the brilliance that exists in this beautiful experience of life, the people that raise their hand and acknowledge that they participate in either cannabis or other types of plant-based medicine, you look at Steve Jobs, you look at some of the folks that have had the biggest impact on our society in the last 100 years. I'd love to tell you that Jefferson was smoking tobacco in that pipe, but I don't think that was the case.
Yeah, for sure.
So, again, for me, it's just been a lifelong enjoyment. And then when, now past Governor Sandoval said, hey, we're getting ready to launch this program, our kids went to school together. I never hid my affinity for the plant. And so I was very involved in the construction of the medical regulatory language. My medical card is the 13th issued in the state of Nevada.
What? That's a great
cool.
number. I like that.
So, yeah, it's, especially when it happens on a Friday. So, for me, I looked at it and said, hey, I want to make sure that the corporate players don't get to have all the fun. I want to make sure that people pay reverence to this plant. And as much as the reverence to the plant, I want to make sure that we pay reverence to the tens of thousands, if not hundreds or millions of people who have gone before us. You look at the AIDS epidemic and the role that cannabis played in providing effective options for those folks. You look at cancer, you look at any of a number of things that cannabis shows extreme efficacy in helping with. And the reason, Grady, that I'm so intrigued by today's topic is we provide solutions. Pharma provides Band-Aids. And the sooner that people realize that all medical advice doesn't have to come from a guy in a white coat, the better off we're going to be as a society.
Ding.
You go to your doctor and you're overweight. He doesn't say, hey, take your fat ass off the couch and go for a walk. He says, take this pill.
Yeah.
Or now Ozempic or whatever the little deals are giving people. It's like, we're not getting medical advice.
What is that thing I heard yesterday? Is like homeopathic natural approaches help you heal, and Western medicine keeps you ill.
It's a
Oh, yeah.
cycle.
They don't want cures. They want
Yeah.
customers.
Yeah.
Well, the other piece of the equation to remember is that in the grand scheme of things, we eat poisoned food so that we can take the poison pill, so that we can max out our insurance dollars. And it is truly profits over people.
Mm-hmm.
And if we just dumb it down and say, hey, guys, the number one medicine that we all consume every day are our calories. Put some good shit in your mouth, and a lot of the bad things that happen as a result of the average American or Western diet never happen.
Right.
I was told a long time ago, hey, you never see a fat old guy. And you think about that, you go, wow, there's not a lot of people that live to 100 that are obese.
Yeah, that's a fact, right? Yeah, there was some, I can't remember the branch, or he was 102 years old, last surviving. I think it was possibly Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was not fat,
No.
or overweight.
Well, and
Can we say fat anymore these days? We can still say fat.
I mean, you can identify as skinny even if you're a little overweight.
I like that.
Yes. I identify as
Say fat, just can't call me fat.
Right.
Now,
Right.
speaking of, corporate America, you're up against the, kind of like the black market. We're still up against, kind of some black market forces. And so why is that?
Great question. The biggest thing that drives people to what we now call the legacy or the traditional market is cost. Currently, we've got a 29% tax burden as put on us by state and local jurisdictions. We've got let's just call it somewhere in the neighborhood of $400 per batch laboratory testing. We are held to a justifiably high standard.
What was that thing you told me one time too when we were visiting, that you have cameras, of course, on site, and if some container touched the floor, you would have to throw everything out,
Discard it. Yeah.
and then they fine you.
100%.
That is crazy.
It's ridiculous.
That like why? What's the rationale that they use?
Well,
That's even plausible.
the rationale is that they don't believe that we are a struggling, fledgling industry. The perception is, oh, you're in the marijuana space. You're making so much money that you can afford to piss it away.
Yeah,
exactly. You think about this. Every product that leaves my store is in a child-proof singular container. It's then placed into a Ziploc bag that you got to have a master's degree in shenanigans to get the fucking open.
And think about the non-biodegradability of these horrible things.
Such a wasteful thing. And
I try to bring mine back.
And they go, oh, this is health and safety. We're trying to keep the kids away from it. I said, you're right. When's the last time? If we put that same protective coating around that McDonald's cheeseburger, we wouldn't have obese children. Or if you left the liquor store with something that it was difficult to open, marijuana is something, in pharmacology, there's what's called an LD. Everything has it. It's called a lethal dose. You drink too much water in too short of a period of time, you die. You take too much aspirin in a period of time, you die. Cannabis does not have an LD. One person has died from cannabis.
From an overdose?
Guy was looking up in the sky in the middle of the country. Plane flew overhead. Happened to be Willie Nelson's plane. Bale of weed fell out the back of the plane, squished the guy, and he died. That's the one guy.
I never knew that.
Well, that's because he's flattered a motherfucker in the middle of the country right now. I mean, this kid looked like a cow patty.
Messes up perception if you have this big news story that says the one guy ever that died of weed, and this was the way, not ingestion.
Right.
It screws up their whole narrative.
Now, here's the thing. Not unlike other things. You shouldn't operate heavy equipment. You shouldn't be driving. There's rapid decelerization that may kill you, but the car wreck killed you, not the weed. And
chances are there was alcohol in the system.
Well, that's the other thing.
Some other kind of drug. They never report that.
Thing that is as socially acceptable as alcohol. I'll just tell you this. If you 100 parents of kids that are getting ready to graduate from high school and said, hey, at the graduation party, are we going to have a keg? Are we going to allow Junior to have a cold beer as a result of his graduation? most of society wouldn't think twice about it.
Yeah, exactly.
But you say, hey, by the way, we're thinking about having, a hookah pipe in the middle of this thing, and they lose their mind. And it's because
The drugs are bad.
Well, I grew up in the Central Valley, man. Keg parties.
Right.
We
They
had
were
woods
like, yeah.
parties when I was
I
a
mean,
kid.
Dude,
How
with
old were you?
strangers.
How old were you, Art, the first keg party you went to?
14 years.
14?
Right.
15, yeah.
I mean, I like I tell you guys,
Yeah, that's probably about right. 15. I think I was 15.
I had to find my way away from it because it was like, oh, when you start drinking at 12 or 13, by the time you're of legal age,
Mhm. Yeah,
you've
you're-
already drunk a tanker full of booze.
A tanker?
It seemed like it.
I
I mean,
see what you're saying.
Like
Like
a-
a
like a-
metaphorical thing.
Yeah, like,
Okay.
like an
Right.
18-wheeler.
All right.
and here's the
You had
other.
my wheels going, Ed.
Gasoline tankers worth it.
I mean,
no,
these-
big cantankerous there.
that's what leads to cantankerous. I mean, here's the other thing, guys. I'll tell you. They talk about marijuana being a gateway drug.
If that was true, that means milk is a gateway to alcohol.
I like that response, Kel.
Well,
I've always hated that
Me too.
here's what I'll express to you.
rationale.
Why don't you keep going back? If you want that to be the gateway drug, just keep going.
Right.
Go back to your mama's titty. Like, what
Pablum.
about that?
Yeah.
Well, and here's the other thing to consider. When historically of our demographic that's being represented here, which is 4 old guys or 3 old guys and one
Yeah, you can
young
call me an old
lady.
guy. It doesn't offend me.
That's right. You used to be a tomboy.
Sure was. I'm
Historically,
more masculine than a lot of men I know.
especially
True.
now.
Yes,
Back to the blue
especially
team.
now.
So historically, you may have gone to a friend of a friend's house and he may have offered something beyond cannabis that maybe had some higher margin, maybe had more of an addictive nature. So it may have introduced you, but I never said, I'm going to smoke a joint on Monday and do some heroin on Tuesday.
Never.
Eggs, duh.
That just doesn't happen.
But I will say this. I've been a fifth of Jack Daniels into a great time. And somebody said, hey, have you ever tried this cocaine? And I said, well, no, but my defenses are down because I'm drunk.
Yeah.
And now it was the gateway
Yeah.
to some other marginal decisions.
Well, the fallacy to me, to wrap that particular subject up, as far as it being a gateway, one of the books I read is a plausible reason why that if somebody is smoking marijuana, that leads to others, cocaine, heroin, of course, on the just crazy end. But one of the biggest reasons he argued is that because it's illegal, that guy has to go to a drug dealer, and along with marijuana, there's cocaine and heroin and other things. And
One-stop
he's
shop.
in that environment where the drug dealer may say, hey, try this. Let me know what you think,
First-
right? And so the point is that you're there because of the illegality, whereas if it was regulated,
Right.
there's educated, then
Right.
it's going to be a different
Totally
path
different environment.
to that. So, Ed, kind of getting back to the external
Sure.
powers that be, talk about the lobbying influence from Big Pharma, the alcohol lobby, retail tobacco that made it difficult for it, first of all, to be legalized. And my follow-up question is, are those entities still actively trying to be part of it being reversed and being made back, being criminalized again?
So we gotta first come from a place of understanding that 99% of what we do in this country is financially based. So
Yeah.
so if I'm Merck or Pfizer and I realize that maybe 7 or 8 of my top selling pharmaceutical prescriptions could be replaced by something that grows naturally in someone's backyard, I'm going to spend some money to protect my profit interests.
Right.
If we want to get a little bit darker than that, the regulatory scheme of illegal marijuana has disproportionately affected people of color. It has stemmed a for-profit prison system, a
Mhm.
for-profit rehabilitation system. As one of my relatives who used to be a commander with Reno Police said, we love busting potheads because you guys are apologizing the whole time that we're taking you to jail. So from a fundamental standpoint, alcohol sales drop radically in regulated states.
And they have.
And will continue.
Big time.
Especially, guys, here's the thing, again, we got 3 old guys and 1 young lady here. None of us heal up the same way from a good drunk like we used to.
That's a
Right.
fact.
And people realize they don't like alcohol. They like the effect of alcohol.
Everybody likes
For
to
a
let their
minute.
hair down. until the next morning
Until
when
they
your
can't
hair
say
is
no.
so far down that you just go, oh my God, Jim Boys, where you at? So,
Right.
so you've got the cumulative effect. We've all been conditioned that Lucky Strikes, Camels, and Marlboros make you a good American guy. A beer is a rite of passage, and you go to the doctor to cure you. And so all three of those major corporate influences have spent the last 50 years making sure that guys that look and act like me aren't providing medicine or inebriants that are less damaging than the poison that they're peddling. So, they spend billions of dollars keeping us in the fray.
Enslaved.
And the other piece of the equation, guys, is this, President Trump is talking about rescheduling cannabis.
That would be
He
amazing.
is? Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and there's
Oh, yeah.
already there's a bill that's already been
With
passed by the
descheduling.
House
Yeah.
that
Yes.
is like sitting in the basement
Yeah,
in,
just somebody
in
needs
the
to sign it.
Senate. So it's ready.
Yeah.
Because here's the things that people don't understand. We talk about what drives people to the traditional unregulated market. 280E is the tax code that governs marijuana. I can't write off labor. I can't write off advertising. I can't write off.
What makes this any different a business than
Yeah.
any fucking thing else? Pardon my language.
Because the federal government wants to make sure that they extract more than their pound of flesh.
Right. It's
So
mobster shit.
it's straight
Total.
gangster. I like at least when I'm in Mexico and I get pulled over, $10 gets me out of jail. Here, I got to pay $10 plus processing plus blah,
Plus,
blah.
yeah, lawyer.
Yeah.
And,
So again,
Overhead.
we're talking about
Back to that tax farm.
100%. It's all money motivated, guys. And unfortunately, because the cannabis industry was spawned from a bunch of individuals who haven't inherently trusted the government, we don't pool our resources and lobby. We don't have a collective voice. We try to
you don't
go
have a way to pay to play.
100%. And the other piece of the equation is like, oh, you can't show up to a lobby firm with a suitcase full of money and go, hey, by the way, can you go represent me? They go, aren't you part of the problem? So as more and more and more people have said, you know what? It may not be for me, but we shouldn't still be incarcerating people over a plant.
That our
Crazy.
bodies have an
Yeah.
endocannabinoid system specifically to interpret the constituents of.
Yeah. And it's been here for thousands of years. And
It's not even a
Only
drug. It's
for
an
the
herb with
last 100.
psychoactive properties.
Right.
Big difference.
truth is out there, folks. You guys definitely do some research. Schaefer Commission back in the 70s, I think the early 70s, was the first fully commissioned study on the effects of marijuana and more specifically on society. At the end of that commission, the chairman actually, that's Schaefer,
Yep.
he was a very high level judge vying for a Supreme Court nomination from Richard Nixon. When the study came out, and these are not users; these are professionals, attorneys, doctors, of course, that are doing that were part of this commission. At the end of the commission, they recommended that marijuana be legalized. Nixon blew a gasket. That's when the proverbial war on drugs started, and millions of brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers have been incarcerated, taken away from their families over us supposed to be in a free nation, to be able to live our life in accordance. And as long as we're not hurting somebody else, we should be able to do what in Kel's words, F we want, right?
And also, it wasn't even made illegal. The whole reason it's illegal was over a business conspiracy. Collusion with FDR, DuPont, and Hearst in 1934. What happened was
it was in the 30s, correct?
it was in the 30s.
Well, and it started as the Marijuana Tax Stamp Act.
Well, what
That's-
happened?
And that was basically to discriminate from the folks coming through the southern border, and they didn't like the smell.
That was
the
a
general
secondary
smell.
effect. That was totally
Right.
secondary. That they demonized it for that and attacked it that way rather than letting people know that it was really about industrial hemp, was stopping the growth of industrial hemp because it threatened the petroleum industry, the paper industry, and the forestry industry. They colluded with FDR because what happened was Henry Ford built a car where part of it was made out of hemp plastic and it ran cheaply and cleanly on hemp seed oil.
Yeah, talk about that, Ed.
Direct threat.
I can see you kind of.
Well, so Kelly, I love when we have, we can weed nerd together.
Yeah.
So what Kelly briefly touched on. So moments before the Hearst family got pitched on industrial hemp.
And they were the newspaper family, of course.
Yes.
Forestry.
And forestry. They had just invested a significant portion of their wealth in the cotton gin. And then the hemp folks approached and said, hey, guys, we got something better than cotton.
Right.
And they said, wait a minute. We just bought all this other equipment. What are you talking about? You got something better. So instead of a good, healthy, competitive environment, they said, hey,
we got to get rid of
shut it down.
Wait a minute. You get high off this stuff too? We got to shut her down.
Yeah.
And then we take it a step further where you look at it and say, okay, hey, we used to have a fairly viable opium dens that came from the Oriental cultures, and we had to demonize that so that we could put that aspect of society down. We had to look at the folks, as you said, that come from the southern border who enjoyed cannabis. And then we said, well, let's disproportionately affect the inner cities by separating, men from their families because, we like to smoke a little grass. And then
especially the ethnic ones.
Let's plant this seed. If you've ever watched any of the reefer madness,
I was just going to say
the propaganda,
it's hilarious now, but it
hilarious.
Wasn't.
It's
almost as funny as Duck and Cover.
It's a
like
travesty.
Best satire.
Oh, but
But people bought it back then.
Do you want your fair-skinned daughter to fall in love with an Amazonian?
Yeah,
right.
If they smoke marijuana, it's like, what the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah.
Here,
right.
And then after this, the FBI riffed off of it. What was the guy? The FBI guy that was.
Oh yeah. Yes.
that guy.
Him.
We're having. Yeah.
That's which FBI guy that was in the process?
What is his name, Daniel? We're having a senior moment. Everybody knows.
Yes.
Yeah. Everybody knows we're talking about you. Oh, Biden. Oh, you know the guy.
But guy, I mean, at the end of the day, what this comes down to is that, in my opinion, the wrong people profit from cannabis. We historically haven't showed up in a 3-piece Armani. Mm-hmm. We've showed up like me in a tie-dye and some shorts. We've done great things for the communities which we reside in. And the moment that we change the dialogue that, oh God, these aren't these crazed lunatics, it is a mind opening plant. So if you're trying to steer the sheeple, you don't want something that opens their mind.
No.
You don't want something that goes, you know what?
Makes them think any alternate way.
The military industrialized complex, one of the, my uncle who recently passed away, was a Vietnam vet. And he tells me, he said, Ed, they're feeding us amphetamines like we're going out of style.
Hitler.
And he goes, you know why? Because it made us angry. It made us.
And it kept you going.
Well, yeah, and made you capable of doing things that are unthinkable. You smoke a little weed, the next thing you're looking at him and go, well, Charlie hasn't done nothing to me. Why are we hunting Charlie? Who the fuck's Charlie? Where is Charlie? Is there pizza?
Where's my foxhole?
I'll bring the music.
Let's get high with Charlie.
But the amphetamine thing started with Hitler.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you want to get somebody angry, 4 days with no sleep and
bunch of poison in your system,
grinding your jaw. The question that you asked is pertinent because what we're now seeing start to infiltrate and take over the cannabis industry is corporate interests. That the Canadian Stock Exchange allows for cannabis to be traded on their.
It's almost like we've seen this before with like a Walmart corporation. Yeah, it's like been here. All right, let's get you in a little bit on the conversation. So here in the panel's commentary, what would you say contrast, say, a perception of the plant or botanical approaches to medicine? And lost my place here. Sorry. It's right here. Oh, and in the schools, Because remember, we had the DARE program, before that,
Just
it
say
was
no.
just say no,
Okay,
and all
do
these
that again.
things. And here's the thing: I read a book once, and that's the whole thing. It's like, look, Reefer Madness, great example, where they're
brain
saying, "Hey,
working
this
on
is the
drugs.
devil's, cabbage. You're gonna go crazy, and all these different things, right?" And they're told this by a role model of theirs, whether it's their parents or somebody that they respect in life,
An
a
authority.
pastor in a church authority. Thank you, Cal. And then somehow, some way, somewhere down the line, their friend says, "Hey, you want to try some weed?" No, 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 no. You guys go ahead. And then they see their friends, or they know that their friends are going to, and then they see them the next day at school, and they're still getting A's and B's, right?
They didn't freak out. They didn't go running
and
around
all that
crazy. They didn't steal
and
things.
what's built in is that these authority people and the people that you trust, they recognize, even if it's subconsciously, that they lied to me, right? And then you can't trust what they say anymore, and it becomes this slippery slope, right? So the question again, so compare and contrast the way that the anti-drug thing was. Should there be, something to where we are more honest with, hey, drugs are out there. This is what this one does. This is what this one does. Hey, one of these days you're going to be offered it. It's not going to be from some drug dealer. It's going to be from your Aunt Harriet, And so speak on that.
I think we're in a season now where we can have these conversations where we couldn't before and demystify. And fear is always with a lack of understanding. And so the more we talk about, the true effects of marijuana and cannabis, and compare that to, the bigger problems that we have with opioids, and come on, alcohol is a terrible
Alcohol's the
problem.
worst.
It is by far the worst. I think we're finally at a point where we're willing to really understand it more, and it's also coming out from the shadows because people are finding out it was always very popular. It just wasn't something we can really
talk about.
really
Just
talk
wasn't in
about.
the-
Yeah, because it was kind of a betrayal to a very conservative culture that we've had in the past, and I understand that. I come from very conservative backgrounds, but I seen pot as a young kid. I mean, I was just very popular to see just how popular it was then. And now it's become, now that we're dealing with it from a more legal side, we feel a little bit safer because it's being regulated. This is why we need to have these conversations. What does it really look like?
And Cal, there's still a social stigma, right? But how do having family level conversations get rid of that stigma, or at least put a big dent in it?
Because to Art's point, it demystifies it. It takes a lot of the fear out of it. I think the biggest reason people stay away from drugs is those two reasons.
I mean, shouldn't
it's illegal?
Say the responsible parents talk about drugs and alcohol just the same way that they're expected to talk about the birds and bees?
Right, but then how good a job do many of them do with that?
But I'm saying, shouldn't it be that?
Oh, everything should be. But parents get lazy and they're like, "Oh, it's the school's job."
Yeah.
Let me chime in for a second. So I've got two adult children. Both of them attended a local parochial high school. When my eldest brought home his drug education pamphlet, I said, "Hey, let me get involved." Because as somebody who has danced with everything on the list of things that they were going to talk about, I looked at it and I said they were grossly inaccurate with their depiction of marijuana. And what my fear was when I sat down with the administration and was ultimately allowed to teach the drug education class, I said, guys, when Johnny goes out and tries marijuana and his arm doesn't fall off, you've now lost your credibility, and he's going to go, well,
the Santa Claus.
Fuck, how bad can heroin be? They lied to me about marijuana. And, to both of you guys' points, as when my kids, I've participated with this plant for my entire life. I told my kids, I said, guys, I'm not endorsing or condoning the behavior. I'm simply educating you as to, if you're young and you're looking to run or mask something, let's deal with what you're running from or what you're masking.
Yeah.
If you're truly in an experimental stage, let's make sure that you don't choose unwisely and end up getting poisoned from somebody off the street.
Right.
But let's also acknowledge that most parents don't think twice about allowing their kid to go to the kegger, but would freak out if they walked in
fridge and get a beer or watch the football game with dad. I did. I've been drinking since I was 3.
some traditional things, definitely hard.
Well, because it's easy, but it substantiates our own behavior when we're passing it along. I'm not the alcoholic in the room if everybody's drinking with me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. It's the projection and justification of their own behavior.
It's easy to hide in plain sight.
Feeling like you're part of something. You know what that means? Okay, so we're about this
section,
like the first one. Yeah, we're going to go into another segment here, but before we do,
Crickets?
We're going to do laughing crickets. So what that is, Ed, here is we come up with let's call them jokes.
We let ChatGPT come up with.
Theoretically,
and then we judge
jokes.
them.
Now we're trying to actually have some jokes that come up around the content, that we're talking about. Of course, you being an aspiring comedian,
right?
So don't be too harsh. But what we're basically going to do is we're going to basically, by the response of the audience, determine whether a joke's funny or not. So if you guys are laughing, it'll be a laugh. But if you guys don't laugh, we're going to hear the crickets, hence the laughing cricket.
All right.
Okay. So first question is, why don't stoners use bookmarks? Because they just keep getting lost in the highlight reel.
Okay.
I would say that's a cricket.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too.
I guess there are digital bookmarks. I'm like, bookmark. Wait, we jumped technology there, but
Thanks. I was worried about that one. Okay, how about this one? A good Cheech and Chong, query here. So, what do you call Cheech and Chong at a spelling bee? High achievers.
That's
better. Okay,
that's
one out
cute.
of two. Okay, we're moving on. Let's see. What's the next page at? There it is. All right. I think this one was a good one. Ed, this actually has to do with the customer service in the dispensaries here. So I asked my bud tender to give me something for productivity, and they handed me a mirror and said, "Try looking at yourself." Yeah, that's a good one. That's self-help right there.
It is.
That's good.
We have a lot of husbands and wives that come in and they say, "Hey, do you have anything to deal with pain?" And I say, divorce is always an option.
Carolyn York.
Had to have the kids laugh on that one. All right, last one. The bud tender asked me if I want a sativa or indica. And I said, man, I just want to remember why I walked in the kitchen for. Yeah?
Sativa and indica is not going to help with that.
Right.
All right. So that's 3 out of 4.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So just one, we get started the wrong way. So, all right. So let's get back into this. We have some fun. So this next segment, we're going to talk about how the war on drugs is not over. Right. There's a lot of the things that we just talked about. And there's struggle for market, the market share.
The war on drugs isn't what we think it is. I mean, there's no war on drugs to stop them or to stop them coming in illegal.
They're not going to eliminate.
They're in collusion.
Never going to happen. They're never going to get. I can't imagine. How are you going to ever get rid? It's not. There was a great question. We shouldn't be asking why people do drugs. What we should be asking is, what do people that do drugs and still function, highly functioning people in society, what do they do different than the people that do drugs and then they go and do the thing in the couch or being unemployed or not productive or what?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really comes down to, are we enhancing the experience of life or are we masking something that's transpired in life? Because
I think it's the intention.
I guess the point is, like, wouldn't you agree with this? It's not the drug. That's not any particular drug that determines whether it's good or bad. It's the user.
Right. Yeah, the drug is,
yeah. I mean, the user, what they do with their actions before, after, during.
There's a massive fallacy out there that we're all alike. I mean, just because we're humanity and we're people and we have certain core similarities, every one of our bodies is genetically extraordinarily different.
Mm-hmm.
So, while a drug can have a certain, what it does is affects a certain receptor or whatever in your there's so many factors that are going to determine how that receptor reacts that none of us can predict or know in any way. So there's this concept that we can just say it's all bad because somebody had a negative effect. Black box warnings. Somebody died, so there's now a warning that says this can kill you. Just because it killed one person doesn't mean it's going to have the same effect on anybody else. Yeah. So,
that's true.
We try to get this blanket.
Ed, what's with you as a legal marijuana operator?
Sure.
What would you say is the biggest misconception about legal
Good question.
weed operators? What's the misconception that just drives you crazy out there?
I think the biggest misperception or conception that I see is that, boy, you must be uber wealthy because you're in the marijuana space. And at the end of the day, for us, we try to be good stewards of the community. I want to make sure that my team has the ability to own homes and to progress. We just try to operate the most effective, efficient, customer service oriented business that we can. And I can tell you this, ask anybody that's in legal marijuana if it was the greatest investment they've ever made. And 100% will say,
absolutely
should have bought
not.
a McDonald's.
Absolutely not. And it was here too. Once it went recreational, I mean, that opened up a whole can of worms.
Yeah, I mean, we started this, both my parents, Grady, you asked a question a while ago, and I answered but didn't answer. My dad had a very rare form of muscular dystrophy. He found relief from using marijuana. My mom was a 5-time cancer survivor before brain cancer finally took her. She found relief in using marijuana. So I looked at this and said, not unlike the food that I put in both of their vessels, I wanted to make sure what was in the marijuana. I didn't want it grown with Miracle Grow. I wanted to make sure that the organic medicine was organically grown. And, the other misperception that I see in the industry is that all marijuana is created equal.
That's not true.
There's 2 organic growers in the state of Nevada. Think about that. 400 licensed facilities, 398 of them are dumping blue water onto a plant and expecting it to be a health and wellness product. Everything at my facility starts and stops as medicine. 22-year-old that's looking for a great time, great, it's medicine.
So are you inferring that you're one of the 2?
We are.
Yeah,
they are.
Let's
100% organic, 100% sun-grown. The way
Who's
Mother
the other
Nature,
one?
nature's chemistry down in Las Vegas.
Dang it, Kel, I didn't want to talk about his competition. Dude,
He's
I'm
not-
just
he's not
kidding. I'm
coming.
just kidding.
It's far away.
It's all good.
I'm just kidding.
Anybody that wants to do it the right way, I'm all about it. And here's the thing that drives me insane. We got a Whole Foods in Northern Nevada.
Yeah.
So people drive 30, 40, 50 miles to go get the perceived clean, organic vegetables from Whole Foods.
Mm-hmm.
But cannabis is convenient, so we want to go down to our local place regardless of what it's used to grow it. I tell people, when's the last time you lit a tomato on fire? And they go, Ed, what are you talking about? I go, you're about to inhale something that's building block. What made that plant the plant is Miracle Grow. Like, I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound as sexy as it might.
Can you hit on that real quick? Because we were at the nursery getting something a few weeks ago, and on the fertilizer side, I told my wife, I just stay away from the Miracle Grow, and she's just like, why? And I'm like, I can't remember specifically, but I read an article, peer-reviewed article, and it wasn't good. I know Martha's a great person, and Martha and Snoop Dogg, I like them, you know what I mean? But Miracle Grow, don't put that in your stuff. So tell us why.
Well, here's the unfortunate piece is when we use synthetic, mostly petroleum-derived fertilizers to grow it. The industry will tell you, Ed, we flush some water through the soil at the end of the plant's life cycle to get rid of any of that residual fertilizer.
Yeah.
And I have a simple response. If you allow a child to eat nothing but McDonald's for its entire life, no amount of water is going to change the building blocks of that body. So when we use synthetic chemicals to grow something, the building block of that plant is inherently synthetic.
How do people not understand this?
But again, it's the
They're delusional is what it is. People like to delude themselves.
How can they not know that, like, right after they leave, McDonald's, and the kid gets to the car, man, all you hear is the whole ride home.
Right. Face breaking out and
I'll tell you a quick Google chemists on staff at McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's employs more chemists than they do chefs.
So you're talking administrative their administration, upper level senior management stuff, or on the
The
franchises?
production.
In the production.
Oh,
So in the
gotcha.
creation of their products,
Right.
The franchisees have to buy everything from.
you
Huh.
go have
Central.
some McDonald's French fries for a week, have them 5 days in a row. The sixth day, you will be jonesing for McDonald's like it's dope.
What?
No question.
I haven't had McDonald's in like over
Just
20
the
years.
MSG.
But how long ago
They're
was that?
stringing
That
you
guy
out.
that ate 30
Right.
days,
Yeah, big
McDonald's
and
30
fat
days.
or whatever it was called.
Yeah, and that like messed him up.
Right. And again, here's what
Morgan. His name is
a
Morgan.
lot of people don't understand. The day,
Supersize me.
yes,
Yeah.
the day that U.S. Tobacco, Philip Morris, lost its court case where it had to label cigarettes as cancer-causing, the next day, the fast food and soda pop industry retained the attorneys that had just lost and said, we don't care what it costs. You will never allow the federal government to regulate our product as they have as they have cigarettes.
Yeah.
Because you think about this, with 64-ounce soda pops now becoming the norm, if there was the same warning on a Coke that there is on a pack of cigarettes, and I'll tell you this, I believe obesity as a result of high fructose corn syrup and the rest of it kills way more people than tobacco ever thought about.
Oh, no question.
But
because it's socially acceptable.
Big business said, wait a minute, tobacco just got their ass handed to them. We got to stop that from happening. You know, remember 10, 12, 15 years ago, New York tried to put a limit on the size of soda you could buy, and people lost their mind.
Yep.
What do you mean I can't buy 7 gallons of soda pop at a 7-Eleven?
Flavored sugar water.
Right.
You know,
Hey, Ed, so what's the matter with drug cartels? We hit on big pharma a little bit, but let me ask you, how does the black market influence pricing and risk for what you guys are doing in the legal license business?
So the biggest influence that we have is what we now refer to as the gray market. So the hemp bill, the farm bill that was passed that allowed for hemp to be created, made a huge loophole in that hemp flower.
Are you talking Nevada or are you talking national?
Federal.
Okay.
So right now you have and I'm not going to get too deep into the science, but I'll just tell you this: hemp flower doesn't get you high.
Right.
But there is a lot of flour that's being labeled. And when I say flour, guys, for our listening audience, you know, the bud that we grind up,
that's
and
the
roll in paper and
good
smoke.
old fashioned.
Yes,
No pens,
nuggets.
no vapes.
So it allows that product, as long as it doesn't test for potency, to be shipped all over. It's unregulated. It's untested. It's untaxed. So right now we're having things delivered to people's home under a loophole in the Farm Bill, which is radically affecting consumer safety. You know, I had a friend of mine in South Carolina who got
So are you saying
Can
that
you
there's
get
things?
THC on the web?
100%.
Are you saying that
But it's called hemp.
there's things
THCA.
being delivered
Interesting.
under the guise of it being hemp?
Yep.
And it's
Yes.
wow.
So
I have a
what
question about
potency
that
is
later
it?
on.
What percentage?
So here's what I'll tell you. So THC starts in the plant as THCA.
Okay.
And that means that there's an acid leg on the molecule at a molecular level. Until what we call decarboxylate, which is heating, whether that's through combustion or whether it's through processing, when we heat it, the acid leg burns off, and that's how we get inebriated. So the Farm Bill allows for THCA flower to be a loophole. So these folks are sending marijuana.
And we say these folks are talking about the cartels, right?
Talking about
Anybody.
Market,
anybody that
yeah.
wants to. A lot of people that failed in regulated marijuana have gotten into this other thing because it's a legal black market. So the cartels play a role in that we are now experiencing legalization in many, many states.
We're 30,
yeah, medicinal.
31,
we've just eclipsed, 30.
Yeah.
So what's happening, like New York, let's pick on New York.
Right.
New York had some of the most arduous drug and marijuana policies ever.
Talk about
So
a
did
black
Texas.
market.
And-
You'd have rumor has it that you could leave, say, a purchase of something in California for 2,000 a pound. By the time it hits New York, it's like 8 to 10.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I used to get pounds in
somewhere.
Texas, $3.50.
So I've heard.
So I've heard.
Yes. So here's
I
what I'll
read
tell
it
you.
somewhere.
Now what you have is with this overreaching regulatory framework, overreaching tax framework, you've got New York police says, well, weed is now legal. So the black market is booming because everybody's turning a blind eye, but nobody wants to pay 50% tax. So now you've got
including the cops.
100%, right. I mean, now you've got folks being exposed to things that may be grown synthetically, may have mold and yeast presence, may have, I always scratched my head when they said, oh, this guy died from fentanyl that he got on his weed. I thought, man, why are you trying to
bike and weed with fentanyl? Like, that's expensive. Like,
that's what I always thought. I go, man,
like, can't you just sell the fentanyl?
I don't know what the fentanyl price is, but when you look and you go, okay, people are dying because they're comfortable that marijuana is legal, but they don't understand that everything that's legal isn't actually good and tested.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like a generation before us, people were going blind from bathtub gin because of the fact that it was like, oh, here's some isopropyl alcohol, and they didn't realize that all ethanol is not created equal. So to the consumer out there, don't buy gas station sushi and don't buy your weed at a gas station.
Right.
Just
you used to be able to get legal speed, mini thins.
5-hour energy.
Right. Yeah, we have that now. It's just called Monster.
Yeah.
Oh man, that stuff is so bad for you.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine anybody enjoys energy drinks.
I remember and I've never had one.
Me either.
I've had like 2.
But I can remember seeing someone pour it into a cup, and I said, brother, that is the color of antifreeze. How good can that shit be for you? And it was like, oh man, this really zooms you up. I go, well, the boatload of cocaine that I did in my youth did the same thing, but it wasn't good for me either. So just because it comes in a 6-pack now, it's somehow good for
delusional. People are delusional.
So final bullet point in this section right here. So let's go back to in the 70s, the Schaefer Commission, the inherent war on drugs. So also what came from that is they established it as a Schedule 1 drug. You alluded to that. We're hopeful that may be changing here, but I want you to look at it, Ed, talk about it through the lens that happened, and is it happening now? And if so, how? When that happened back in the 70s, and they said this is going to be a Schedule 1 drug, it's as bad as cocaine and heroin, and so they granted all kinds of power, through misinformation, in that instance, right?
Sure.
And so is that happening again where there's granted power and they're doing it through information, through media or propaganda? Is anything like that happened you can think of?
So the biggest red herring is the pandemic that we just came through. If you want to talk about a misinformation campaign that was rooted in nothing besides interestingness, when you start talking about the COVID pandemic, when you start looking at, Grady, it's to your point, this isn't cannabis. We've taken the propaganda machine that we know worked well in marijuana and we've just supersized it with other things. You look and you say now the cartel, the largest cartel is Big Pharma.
U.S. Big Pharma, no question.
And Big Pharma has now said we will just do a 18% set aside for the pending lawsuits that we know are coming. See, here's what people don't understand. During the AIDS epidemic, there was public outcry to bring AIDS medications to the forefront of the battle faster. Bush said, guys, we can't do it because there's only 5 people on the FDA. He proposed successfully that we allow big food, big pharma, and big tobacco to sit at the table of the FDA.
Wow.
So you've got Bisco approving Chips Ahoy as health food. You've got Merck and Pfizer saying, hey, guys, sure, 9 out of 10 people that take these eye drops, develop anal bleeding. But that one guy, his eyes are no longer dry. We consume 90% of the pharmaceuticals produced globally, and we're still the sickest nation in the world because it's about money.
Yeah,
it's profits.
And they got the deep pockets to have this stuff continuing in front of our faces on commercials that just run ad nauseum.
Hey.
Yeah, no other country allows pharmaceutical advertising, and we are the most chronically ill nation ever, and specifically Gen X.
I lost satellite radio at the shop about 2 months ago. So I'm in the greenhouse listening to, pick a station. Commercial 1 is, if you are overweight, talk to your doctor about, GLP-1, blah, blah, blah. Commercial 2, hey, this is the law office of go fuck yourself. And if Big Pharma made you sick, call us. And it's like, wait a minute here, guys. We know that the medicine is the poison. And yet because the bottom line profit and loss statement shows that it makes sense, we've somehow become a slave to pharma.
We're the beta testers. America are the genetic beta testers for the rest of the world.
Well, it's not the first time that our country's done this.
Not at all. But we have, because of the ethnic mix we have, ethnic and cultural mix we have genetically, they run everything through us first to see how it's going to play out and how to adjust it to sap the rest of the world with it. And then finally turn it in. Like Sweden. Remember when Sweden used to be held up when we were in school? Sweden was always held up as like the shining bank, poster child of everything. Like they were great at everything. And now Sweden is a blue mess, especially Stockholm. You wouldn't recognize it. And the immigrants that they've allowed in, like, how everybody was blonde and blue-eyed and, basically Pleiadian looking. Now it's being infiltrated.
It was a perfect plan. Let's feed young people this, get them hooked on it. They're going to be obese, and then we're going to sell them this drug to deal with the pain and the treatment. It's a perfect plan. But it doesn't happen without a lazy society who isn't doing its own due diligence.
I'm going to give us a bit of a break, though, because we are so influenced by media and the real information is so obscured that, we try, but if the information you're getting fed is bad when you're doing the research, what do you do?
But it's so convenient, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that food
most
is
people
inexpensive.
Just go,
it's
I know, but I'm going to
and,
do it anyway.
Should I stop on the
'Cause
way
it's more
home
work
at Taco Bell,
Right.
feed the family for, $25 now as compared to.
Yeah. And it's legal, so it must be safe.
Well, the other thing that we don't touch on nearly enough, this indoctrination starts at 5 years old.
Oh, it starts way before.
We show up to school. If mom packs you a peanut butter and jelly lunch, you're ridiculed, or you can't even bring it to school because somebody's got a nut allergy. So then we sign up for this
Lunchable
version of whatever this stuff is they're feeding kids. And to your point, it's so readily available. You have to search out healthy options.
And it's 10 times more expensive.
And yes and no. I mean, I'll tell you this. I have this discussion a lot with my team who are always trying to stretch a buck. I say, guys, for $40 on a Sunday, I can prep a week's worth of food. A moment ago was mentioned that, Taco Bell costs $25. Like I could tell you this, McDonald's used to be a cost-effective, quick alternative. Now,
when they used real food,
it's like fine dining when you go. You look at it and go. I was driving down the road the other day. I see this thing, $10, and you get to choose a Big Mac or a McNugget. I'm saying $10 for it used to be $1. But the last time I had McDonald's, it was $1.99, and it was a special occasion.
Yeah.
But
$2.
Now it's like, it's convenient, and then we feel like shit, and then we become obese, and now that we've normalized, like I could tell you this, I was a beanpole in school,
and I weighed 265,
and I was picked on.
I was bullied to death.
But you were probably rightfully so. I don't think people are being bullied for being big kids now because everybody's
it's body
a
positivity.
Big kid.
I'm glad they got that physical education, stuff, going back to the school. Do you remember this? Remember that?
Oh yeah.
That's our old thing. What's going on right now is we're going to have a life coach lightning round right here with everybody in the studio. Well, at least Kel, Ed, and Art. So let's put the background music down a little bit. And Ed, the way that this works is I'm going to pose a question to you guys. And then you have do we want to still do 30 seconds? Or we want to do 60?
Let's do 60.
Okay, we're going to
30.
do 60 seconds today.
We're verbose.
And then at the end of 60 seconds, if you are not finished, I am going to
Finish it.
right in the middle of your statement. So this is the first one. And you kind of were hitting on this, Ed. So I'm going to ask this question to you. So right now, as we sit here today, what fear or myth would you eliminate from the cannabis industry conversation?
The fear that I would eliminate from the cannabis conversation is that it's a gateway. And the myth that I would eliminate is that we are crushing it as an industry. I mean, I think it's very important for people to understand that this is a legitimate business that oftentimes is plus or minus 1 or 2% from red to black ink. We have a lot of people come in and go, "Hey, what's for free today?" And I say, when's the last time you rolled into Rayleigh's and asked them if you could have that gallon of milk for free? So somehow we are doing so great that, hey, here's your free gummies.
Yeah, and I don't like that, man. People looking for a hookup, just like local musicians, they'll go to a show and it's just like, it costs like $5, $10, $20, whatever it is. They're just like, hey man, you got any free tickets?
Right.
And so anyway, I don't appreciate that at all. Okay, Art, life coaching again. This is a life coaching lightning round. One personal habit that keeps you stay grounded. What's a personal habit that helps you to stay grounded?
Staying present, staying focused on the now.
Talk about that right into the mic.
I'm learning. I'm reading a book right now called The Power Now, and Eckhart is just amazing. It just really has helped me understand that the past is gone. It really, really is, and the future hasn't happened. It's an illusion. And so the habit that works for me best now, when I'm feeling either frustrated, upset, I realize, okay, there's something that's causing me to be outside of now. The minute I pull myself in, this is what I have to control. What are my options? What can I do right now to improve how I feel right now, how I think right now? That is one I've been working on. So Grady was the first thing I thought of.
What?
That's really good.
Hey, Art, here's a little bead. Keep your head where your feet are.
Like that. I like that.
That's real. Wow. That's really profound.
All right, Kelly.
Thank you.
Here we go, Kel. All right. What does healing look like in a society that's built on profit? Like, Ed's not wrong. This world is all about, that buck. Everything we were complaining about with government and corporations and stuff like that. And unfortunately, households have to operate on this stuff. But, so what does healing look like in a society that's just so focused? And of course, the machinery is all about profit. Go.
It's how to heal is to diversify and not dilute, but redistribute the concentration. We have way too much concentration of wealth within too few hands, and it just doesn't work that way with 8.2 billion people.
What are we going to do about it?
Healing looks like, and it's hard because you can't. I don't want laws, or I don't want restrictions put on these people. But the way they got to the levels they're at was in collusion with forces that we don't have access to, that regular people do not have access to. We don't have a capitalistic system. Capitalism is just a simple economic principle. We have a corporatistic society where that is collusion between corporations and big government to control everything.
Which is one of the biggest fears that the founding fathers had, was for government and for corporations, and they were around back then, for them to be in business, and they went to great lengths to try to ensure that it didn't happen. But I'll be damned, here we are. It's pretty amazing. Back to Ed. What kind of a mental reset? Obviously, what we know it's obviously, but outside of the main subject today, what kind of mental reset do you recommend when facing burnt?
Yeah,
when
you
just
can't access.
tired?
To me, guys, the most crucial thing is self-care. And Grady, you and I share the bond of music.
Mhm.
Music and community is a great reset. It's something as simple as pulling your shoes off and walking on Mother
Touching
Earth
grass, yeah.
to
Mhm.
ground you.
That's so
That's
important.
so important.
Getting some grass underneath your toes.
And to Art's point a second ago, hey, staying present. I mean, anxiety is an unrealistic fear of an unrealized event. And that's simplistically deep when you think about, hey guys, think about the things that make you anxious and how many of those things have actually come true.
Isn't that interesting?
And that's
I've found myself recently pointing that out to a lot of people. Like, how often do the things that we obsess over ever happen?
Well, I have a statistic. They did a study on that at Harvard. So, and the study was done on worry. Okay, so and they put down all the things they could think of that people worry about. Am I going to pay my bills?
Right.
How am I going to die? When's it going to happen? Is it going to hurt? Is my husband cheating on me? All these different things that people could worry about. And if they found out that they actually only came true 15% of the time. And so what that means is 85% of the time, of course, basic math, you are spending mental energy, emotions, wasting time. Only action.
And putting it into the field.
Anytime that you have a problem, again, I was taught, the first questions that you ask is, does anybody die? Because you can't do anything about that.
No.
It's irreversible. You have to kick into grieving, supporting, and stuff like that. But outside of that, then you say, okay, life is a game. So I have a problem. The game is to solve it, and you can think about it and plan on it and stuff like that, but only action, okay, and consistent action, and then following up and stuff like that is actually what leads to your problems being solving. It's not through worry. So, hey, I got on a soapbox there. But this isn't even my segment right here. So sorry about that, you guys. All right, last question here. Let's go ahead and our special guest. I'm going to direct this towards Ed again. And so, what is your favorite example of of unexpected growth that you've experienced after hitting a low point in your life?
Ooh, I think to your statement a second ago that action is the answer to every question or problem that we face. As I, people go, hey, Ed, how'd you get here? I said, I put my head down and put one foot in front of the other. I started my previous career as something to do until I figured out what came next. And then 25 years later, I was like,
Figured out what you wanted to be when you grew
that
up.
was a great deal. So
What did you do?
I ran Western, large
Oh, that's
division
right.
wrestling.
Yeah.
So, to
Sounds
me, there's folks sitting on the couch waiting for a higher power to solve their problems. And I always tell people, I think your higher problem is going to meet you somewhere in the middle. So get off the couch. So I show up and do my best. I mean, I've been through tragedy, personal loss, divorce, you name it. And one thing, my drug of choice is work. I get up. I put forth as much effort as humanly possible. I try to exceed people's expectation. And in doing that, I exceed my own expectations, and growth is the result of that. I tell people I can only give because you allow me to. Our mantra at Soul, without you, there's no us. And
That's a fact.
It's a play on words, but it's so real.
Yeah.
Everything we do in the
So
community
true.
is possible because of the support of the community. So it's this cyclical,
reciprocal
self-fulfilling
thing.
prophecy. Anyway, so hey, my biggest rebounds have come as a result of not sitting around licking my nuts and putting boots to ass and one foot in front of the other.
That reminded me, like when you were talking about that a little while ago, I think there was a joke that was built in there. So what do you think about this one? This was like, oh man, I'm putting myself out there. So why did the exotic entertainer quit her job? Because she had a nut allergy.
Exactly.
Well, no, that was kind of weird. There was no crickets. There was no laughter. It was kind of just acknowledgement. Yeah.
We're just emerging from that PC version of our country's existence to where we could actually have real dialogue. So thank you.
I love it. I love it. All right. So one more segment of the Life Coach Lightning Round. So thanks for playing. All right, moving on. Now, a round table here. Let's talk about drug reform. Okay. Is decriminalizing, general question. Okay. Is decriminalization enough?
No.
Talk about that.
So with all things that require intellect and thoughtful exploration, the key is education. And, you know, we live in a decriminalized caloric world, and people are killing themselves every day through what they eat. Drugs or inebriants are no different. There is a time and a place for it in the experience of life, but we have to educate. And I'm going to give you the most glaring example that I believe. I get asked every day, hey, Ed, where are you on the premise of legalized psilocybin, magic mushroom?
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people, guys, I'm all about it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not in the traditional dispensary model. There's so many great things that can come from the miracle of a psychedelic experience, but it's so highly publicized from an efficacy standpoint right now that you got people that don't understand.
Are you referring to microdosing?
Micro or macro?
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, it's a beautiful reset.
Yeah.
You know, I participate fairly frequently.
Well, it's more safe than like ketamine, isn't it?
It is much more safe, but here's the thing. Anytime you peel off the scab of potential trauma, whether that's PTSD, whatever it is, if you do it in an unsupervised fashion,
yes,
you're now maybe not equipped to deal with the trauma and the drama that you're actually trying to deal with. You know, there's a reason why in ancient civilizations we had a shaman take us through that experience. We need a guide. If you don't know where you're going, raise your hand and let's get a guide. And the psychedelic journey is no different. We need shaman. You know, I tell people, if you want to get on the bus, I'll be your tour guide.
Yeah. And just to be clear, so what you're really talking about here, just so we're clear on this, is, of course, I think we used the phrase earlier, mind-altering drug. And I point out maybe it's not so much as altering as tapping into, you know, and you have a certain, you know, psilocybin, that's the said facilitator, right? And so I've always said and recommended to people that you need to be in a good frame of mind to do this. You don't want to be depressed. You don't want to be stressing. You don't want to be in a bad mood. You don't want to be angry or anything like that. So is that what you're talking about and referring to?
In what I'm going to call psychedelic therapy, we call it set and setting. So that's making sure that you're in a safe setting so that you can receive the miracle or the medicine, and making sure that you're in the right mindset. You know, if you know, I just got
so spell those out though. So first setting.
So
what would you recommend?
The setting is this. You know, I was just at a huge concert, 70,000 people at Golden Gate Park. There's a lot of people that were having recreational experiences down there. If you're trying to deal with some childhood drama or trauma, I wouldn't recommend 70,000 of your closest friends participate.
You want a ceremony.
Yeah. You want it to be more ceremonial in nature. You want to make sure, to your point, the mindset. You know, I've been involved in situations where we had a plan. Hey, we're going to see Pink Floyd. We're going to take fill in the blank and we're going to have a great time. Yeah. And then halfway to the concert, we got in a car wreck. Oh, and my mind was fucked up. Yeah. And I'm giving you a theoretical. Oh, I see. So that entire dynamic of where I was mentally shifted. So now I'm not going to have this freeing experience. I'm going to be like, man, when I get home, mom's going to be upset that I wrecked the Buick. Yeah. So you have to make sure that your mindset is optimal, and you have to make sure that your setting is safe.
Would you recommend anybody taking or ingesting magic mushrooms and then going out on a public golf course?
It depends.
It totally depends on the person.
If here's what I tell people, you know, we're close to Tiobe. Okay. So if you stop by Soul on your way to 18 holes, you have an excuse.
There you go.
If you stop by Soul on your way back from 18 holes, you have consolation. That's right. You can always blame the shanks on the gummy, but you can't blame the gummy on the shank.
I wouldn't recommend that for a first timer. For a newbie to go do that, take it and then go to a golf course.
Man, my whole thing is on that is golf is already difficult as it is. You don't need to be
and try and play. I thought you meant just to watch. You mean do that and then go try and play?
Yeah, it was a plan that we had at one point back in my earlier years, but there, you know, like to your point, you know, the plan, we never manifested it.
But if you're in the right mindset, you could have a blast.
I think that we have to be mindful of the fact that we're tapping into some energy that is largely less understood than it should be. And with that understanding, you know, you can have some beautiful experiences. I've had beautiful experiences. I've also had some experiences that I wished I wasn't playing out in a captive audience.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Like what?
Well, like I'll tell you this. So I provided end of life care for both my parents, and I did it 100% lucid because I wanted to make sure to be present for all of it.
Right.
And the people that knew me were like, man, Ed's on a long ass, sobriety.
Break, yeah.
And I said, guys, here's the thing. I want to make sure that I grieve properly. I want to make sure that when I come out the end of this, the other side of this, that it's not done, but it's done-ish.
Right.
And then I've done other life-changing things less lucid. And, that drunk turns into 2, 3, 4 days. And all we're doing is kicking the can down the road for dealing with whatever the it might be.
That's the thing.
Great.
You're like, yeah, you're referring to the escape.
Yeah.
Just getting, sometimes, of course, we kind of yearn to be numb.
Right.
Depending. And of course, kind of like what we're taught when we're growing up, we all get to a point, different challenges in life, and we're kind of mired in self-pity. Occasionally, just like the damn Disney cartoon Bambi, just like, get up, Bambi.
Right.
You must get up. And so we all do too. We have to eventually. Was that a good one?
Well, the other here's the other thing that
I
I'm
call
gonna
that the
leave you
voice
with.
of the universe.
I'll leave you this one on, Grady, is that experience of life is either a platform or a crutch. You get to choose.
I like that.
And unfortunately, we as a society are more content with a crutch.
It's fallen that way. It's become so easy.
Well, it's an excuse.
Oh gosh, oh gee. When I was chronically ill, I got to a point where that's all people would talk to me about.
Right.
And they would say, "Oh, how you doing?" And I would have to say to them, "Don't make me lie. I'm present and accounted for."
Well, and again, the other piece of the equation is life is about perception. There's 4 people here in a 10 by 10 room, all of us having a similar experience.
It's actually 13 by
living
15.
completely different.
We're all
4 different-
experiencing it radically different.
Yeah.
But people aren't aware of that.
No,
They think we're all having the same experience as we are.
Well,
People don't see you as you are, they see you as they are.
Here's what I'm going to tell you, and we're all going to be able to relate to this. Everybody's got kids
No.
on some level, or
Never married, no kids. So I'm going to be odd man out for almost anything anybody tries to.
That's not true because you've experienced this.
Yeah, probably.
My mother was the perfect grandparent in my children's eyes. She was a flawed human being as her child, as I am a flawed human being as a parent, but probably will be perceived as a batshit crazy grandparent if I'm ever blessed enough to have grandkids.
Good for you because you're in your monkey phase.
And so what I mean by that is that same lady, 2 radically different perceptions based on she was the guardrails in my life and she was cool grandma in my kids' life.
Mm-hmm.
So in that vein, we all are experiencing a time-space differential that's radically different depending upon what we're
Where
seeing.
you're at. Yeah.
Hey, 2 people are involved in a traffic incident. One of them feels violated. The other one feels
Thinks he won the lawsuit lottery.
100%. So you look at it and go, hey, exact same experience, 2 radically different outcomes.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes we get wrapped up in this, everybody's got to be living my same experience. And it's like, well, fuck, I'm living my own experience and I had some caffeine this morning, so I'm living it at a much faster rate than you are, or I'm not
processing.
I'm processing it different. Or guess what? Things that trigger Kel have no impact on me. And so, Grady says something that's triggering to her and it's calming to me. And now we're both having radically different events. And guess what? She's emitting energy that's flight. I'm emitting energy or receiving energy. Then I'm like, well, fuck, why am I feeling anxious when the person over here is the one? So we're all interconnected in terms of this massive energetic field. And sometimes we forget, I tell my goal is to positively impact as many people on a daily basis as I can. And I teach that it's the small things.
Yeah.
Hold the door.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Please. Thank you. We live in a world where the bar has been lowered so radically.
So bad.
If you're just a substandard human being, you rise to the top because people, everybody's locked in on their phone. Everybody's going through the motions, but nobody's going, man, this is a beautiful experience. My team, my family, anybody that knows me is like, Ed's never met a stranger, because I love conversation. And in that dialogue, what I find, we're all feeling and fighting the same thing. We got parties right now that, hey, 90% of it, guys, we agree on. Don't let the fray fuck you up.
Yep.
Simple.
That's
Exactly.
truly it. I mean, if you we get into these you versus me and R versus D and left versus right and blue and blah, blah, blah. And if you just have conversations with people, you realize that that's media hype. They're doing that on purpose.
Let's talk about something else illegal.
Yes.
From a libertarian standpoint.
Yes.
That's taxes.
Yes.
So there's in legalization, decriminalization of marijuana, there is supposed to be money that goes somewhere, so namely the schools, and other places. But talk about that real quick. Where is it supposed to go? Where is it truly going? And what can we do about it?
Well, the good news is we all voted for tax and regulate over prohibition in this state, and we voted for it under the pretenses that we were going to crawl out of last place from an educational standpoint. Unfortunately, that didn't.
It's a lie.
And unfortunately, and I'm going to slightly butcher the number, but I believe it was $100 million that we had in the slush fund, the general fund.
They said it's going to be for education, but it was not earmarked.
So it went into the general fund. And then the vid crept into our state, and we had to figure out a way to fund government services with all of the tax generating services being shut down. So they said, hey, we got this weed money over in the corner here. That's how we're going to pay all the government services and the government employees. So that $100 million.
Is that where like the unemployment payments came from?
All of it.
Wow.
All $100 million. Here's the thing, guys. Luckily, it was available.
Yeah.
Because, fortunately or on, we probably would have had a lot shorter test period.
I didn't feel good about that.
Me neither.
I did not feel good about it. Of course, I tried to justify it. Well, I have been overtaxed, and they've been taking my money.
They're just giving it back to
me. You know what I mean? So, but in order to make myself feel better, I used all of the money on weapons.
Nice. So yeah. we actually saw
check and serve.
We saw a massive uptick in people using cannabis.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Absolutely.
You have more time on your hands.
We were sheltering in place, playing Call of Duty and ordering, Grubhub.
And wanting to escape the hell of what was going on.
Well, and trying to figure
hoarding
out
toilet paper, for fuck's sake.
Oh, man. That was crazy.
Forget about toilet paper. You know what I loved? I remember like the day that the governor shut us down. I was at Costco. There was a couple coming out. And
March 18th.
Yeah, there you go.
2020.
So there was a couple coming out with like one of the big Costco flat full of meat. Meat.
Okay.
Meat. So I, just because I like poking the bear. So I said, hey, where's the salt? And the guy looked at me and goes, what are you talking about? I said, I'm assuming that you're going to dry that meat with salt. And he goes, absolutely not. Why would I cure it? I said, well, I'm assuming that if the store shuts down and we can't get groceries, the power plant's probably not going to be far behind. So the 10 grand in meat that's in the freezer that just turned into something other than edible, and the wife's like, I told you this was a dumb idea. There's not a lot about what's going on right now that's inspiring confidence. I'm assuming I'll take a shower before I have to buy a truckload of Charmin. If toilet paper is the difference between go and no go, especially in something was largely characterized as non-gastrointestinal, like I understand if you get the flu, maybe you need some baby wipes.
I remember we were in Mendocino on vacation. My wife and I, there was no Wi-Fi reception, which was cool because you're in Mendocino, right? So we were out
enjoying life.
Yeah. And we had a great little villa and it was fantastic. So at one point we were going to dinner and I got on the computer to check in and there was something about people in Reno taking all the toilet paper. And I didn't know what was going on, at that point. And I was just like, this is a weird question. I said, but like, we're like normal. We're stocked up on toilet paper, right?
Yeah, we're good, babe.
She's like, yeah, why you ask that? I'm like, well, there's something going on, with it. But I thought it was such an interesting example of the herd mentality,
hive mind,
right? And so one of the most funny memes that I saw in regards to this toilet paper thing was, you remember the movie Samuel Jackson Outbreak and Cuba Gooding Jr.? I think he was in that too.
Yeah.
So the meme has a picture of all these guys in their hazmat suits, right? And they're all decked out, and some sort of course, outbreak happened in the movie, and so they're trying to portray the same thing that happened with COVID, right? And so the meme said on the top, it said, "My God, they're dead. They're all dead." And then on the bottom, Cuba Gooding Jr. says, "Yeah, but did you notice how clean their assholes are?" That's it, man. That was like all-star gold.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
whoever
funny.
made that one up,
That's
that
funny.
is like Hall of Fame stuff right there.
That's funny.
Hey, this last thing on this topic is, for me, it frightened me to see people losing their mind over toilet paper. And what I can remember.
And then masks.
Well, dryer sheet probably didn't save me. I'll tell you this, guys, not that it matters. Never took any of the medicine.
Nope. Never got it.
Made just about 6,500 personal deliveries to folks. And I mean, I saw stuff like, hey, we got the orange cleaning gloves taped to the bathrobe with like some kind of shower cap or something. And
see somebody driving in their car.
That used to drive me nuts. What are you doing?
Grady,
or riding a bike.
We had to tell people.
You're outside, bro.
We had to tell people, we won't pick up your money if it's in a Ziploc bag full of hand sanitizer. We had people.
Oh, good for you.
And I, and I like to fuck with people just because there's very few things in this world.
Yeah.
So I would, I'd get to this house and, they would want to do this like decontamination before I handed them the weed. And I would say, hey, did you do that with that product that came from Walmart that 75,000 different people wheezed on before you brought it into your house?
Mm-hmm.
Or let's think it one step further. That beautifully black hepatitis-laden conveyor belt that you just put all your groceries on prior to checking out? When's the last time
it was
cleaned
such
that?
a joke with in hindsight, all the things they were having to do. They're putting up the casinos, the plastic stuff in the casinos and having things segmented stuff. Anyway, that will hopefully never happen again. If it does,
don't count on it.
I mean, just...
Man,
I can hope that like we've learned something.
UK is already preparing for the next one.
So what, Ed, again, in your position, why do some counties ban cannabis businesses even when the voters approve the legal use of it?
I think it's a good thing that we give local jurisdictions the ability to opt in or opt out. Right. We've got other situations, prostitution in our state is one where all counties haven't leaned into it. On a deeper level, I look at it and say, hey, if you live in a state that isn't pro-choice and you believe that in your heart, then move to a state that has it. So I think it's good to allow the will of the people in a specific geographical location to trump the will of the general population. Because, it's not like we voted 100% in the state of Nevada. It was 56% in favor. And so that meant 44% of the rest were not in favor. We got to give folks the ability to, hey, Douglas County is a weird one for me.
Mm-hmm.
You've got so many migrants coming over from California with a very liberal mindset, but yet the Douglas County, Board of Supervisors has repeatedly voted against cannabis. And it's like, no problem, guys. Guess what? That just means your guys have to drive a little farther.
Right.
So I'm for that. And I'm generally, I'm a don't tread on me kind of guy.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, explain to us, what does clean weed really mean today?
Clean weed means you really need to ask some questions when you're in front of your bud tender. Okay. So by law, if you ask, we have to furnish you with what we call our amendments list.
And what is that?
And that is anything that is used in the cultivation, pest management, or anything from seed to sale that has come in contact with that. So, for example, you ask Sol, hey, what's your amendments list? Dart. We grow organically in organic soil utilizing only organic amendments. And so clean weed doesn't necessarily simply revolve around lab-tested weed, because by state law, everything has to pass a pesticide, a pathogen, a series of very well thought out third-party administered lab tests, meaning that it's generally considered safe.
Yeah.
Our food is generally considered safe, whether it is Monsanto's grown or farmers market grown, and that's not real. What's real is people that take the time to cultivate health and wellness do so in an organic manner, so that the medicine, whether you're eating it, smoking it, vaping it, whatever the case may be, just make sure that what you're putting in your body is thoughtfully produced.
I like it. I like it. Kelly,
Thanks.
you got anything to add, about these subjects with the taxation and kind of like the mismanagement, let's call it like that, of some of our tax resources?
As far as the tax part of it goes, I disagree with most taxes, but my big thing with cannabis right now is how since it's been industrialized, it's been, I call it dumbed down. It's the potency and the effect is much less than it used to be over the
Less?
I've
You're saying
I've
that
noticed
when everybody's
dramatically over the
saying
last
more.
year.
Everybody's saying more, and you're saying less. And
I'm saying it's less. They've taken out. It feels like they've taken out. It's mostly body high now, no matter what you're smoking, whether it's sativa or indica.
they're
Taken out
mostly hybrids, right?
most of
time?
it's hybrids, but
Yeah.
even when you get the pure stuff, it used to have what I call a heady effect, where it could alter my thinking. Like it could open up pathways in thoughts and just concepts and the way, the way I took information in and expressed it.
So are you saying that like you used to get
Happen
to a
anymore.
place that you can't get to anymore?
Correct.
So Kelly, what I'm gonna express to you is that is less a byproduct of potency and more of it's kind of the opposite.
Is it additive?
So here's what's happening. You've got 3 companies in the entire state of Nevada that grow under the sun. A full spectrum effect of the sun allows the plant to develop all of the nuances, which is what Kelly's talking about, the introspectiveness.
Wow.
The other piece of the equation is because the industry, in my opinion, has lied to the consumer that potency is the most important factor. And I don't often make the alcohol analogy, but it's an easy one. If the products that are being consumed are inherently stronger from a THC standpoint, but they're not as broad from a full spectrum standpoint, we're now developing a tolerance, not unlike if you went and said, all I'm doing is a shot of Everclear every night. That IPA never gives you a buzz. So we're consuming things. I'll weed nerd for a second. We're the only company that I'm aware of that uses a full spectrum oil in our edibles, which means that I extract it just how it exists in the plant, and then we put it into an edible. My nighttime gummies make you tired. My daytime gummies stimulate you. The rest of the industry uses a product called distillation, where all they do is suck the THC out and none of the lesser known constituents in the plant. So all you're getting is the Everclear. You're not getting the beautiful body of a Cabernet.
So to make sure that I'm understanding this, so as far as the light source
Yep.
for growing the plant, there's natural, there's light depth.
Yep.
And of course, indoor.
Yep.
Right. The advantage of indoors, because you're able to, from a laboratory scientific standpoint, kind of manipulate
The environment.
right, and keep track of the variables. The light depth's kind of like in the middle, but you're saying that, and it makes sense. The best way And the way that would be most beneficial to Kelly is to find something that's totally grown outdoors.
Or
Right?
grown using the full, like for us, we
Yeah.
have what we call a hybrid facility.
Okay.
So I have a clear roof, a greenhouse,
Right.
but I can control the internal environment, keeping it cool, keeping the air moving. But the full spectrum effect of the sun, you got to remember this. We, as an industry, were forced inside. We didn't go inside because better marijuana is grown in a warehouse.
Hydroponically.
Well, yeah, because another factor was, of course, when it was illegal.
Going to prison.
That's right. And so that was a big motivator there.
So my point being is that if it's the difference between the beautiful, lush yumminess of an organically produced tomato and the pithiness of a miracle grown tomato.
Yeah, I got you.
So, what I would say is this, and I don't say this to be braggadocious. We're the most awarded cannabis company in the state of Nevada.
Oh, congrats.
And none of the product that we've ever entered in any of these contests has tested above 17 or 18% THC. We have products on the shelf right now around the state that are pushing 40%. And I would say that if I provided Kelly with some 40% and some 17%, she would enjoy the 17% far more than the 40% because it is a cab, not Everclear. The difference, and you got to think about this, guys. When you think about the difference between that garbage can punch experience when you were in high school and sipping a beautiful glass of Cabernet, one of them gives you a full-bodied experience. And I'm not a fan of ethanol, but this is an easy path to paint. One of them gives you a full-bodied experience. The other one just gets you drunk.
Yeah.
And so develops a tolerance because the receptors in our body, the endocannabinoid system, is designed to receive THC and the other constituents that make up marijuana. When we flood it with just THC without any of the other tempering, or we call it the entourage effect, where I tell people we keep all of our products as close to the plant as humanly possible because we don't know where the magic is. There's a beautiful movie way back with Sean Connery called The Medicine Man.
Oh, yeah.
He finds a cure for cancer, but he can't identify where the cure came from. And it turns out that it came from the saliva of a red ant that had ingested this plant, yada, yada, yada. So I tell people, hey, I think this plant is miraculous. So let's keep it whole. Let's not just isolate the inebriating component being THC and say, hey, now we got you some jet fuel. Wait a minute. If I need something that's stronger, I can take an additional puff or I can have an additional gummy. I don't need lightning in a bottle.
Right.
And the other piece of it, we have a lot of clientele that's our age. And they're not looking for, when we're 17, 18, 19 years old, we're beer bonging because we're looking for maximum inebriation with minimal effort.
Yeah, you're kind of, from an alcohol analogy, you're kind of equating the same difference between regular Bacardi and Bacardi 151.
There you go.
And again, I'm not a rum guy, but I suspect that beautiful, dark, regular Bacardi has a much better experience than that 151.
Oh, yeah, it does. 151's gross.
And you got a different clientele of folks. Hey, give me the moonshine.
I love it. What happened there?
You're a little hot.
That must be another segment. All right, now
hot.
guess what's going on now, guys. So this is what's the verdict? Okay, so Ed, what we do here is I'm going to basically point out something, and you guys are going to give it a thumbs up or thumbs down, and then you're going to explain what your rationale is behind your choice, okay? And so let's go with Ed on this first one. So thumbs up or thumbs down, CBD infused everything. Is it a miracle wellness or market overkill?
Overhype.
Overkill, yeah.
I'm going to say neutral. Thumbs sideways. So let me qualify by saying this.
Okay.
Nature's #1 anti-inflammatory. Strongest anti-inflammatory that we're aware of that Mother Nature has produced
Is?
CBD.
Oh, okay.
And knowing that, statistically speaking, the number one cause of most of the ailments that we deal with, the root cause is inflammation. I think everyone should be on a CBD regimen, but people come in, I need a CBD gummy. I go, I've never taken medicine with 7 grams of sugar. So CBD infused is where you lost me on the question. Versus just saying, hey, I think everybody should be taking CBD because it's a beautiful anti-inflammatory. It's got some minor analgesic or pain management components to it.
I understand.
So it's a beautiful product.
Yeah.
But I don't need a CBD-infused Coca-Cola because all the health and wellness benefits of the CBD are offset by the high fructose corn
What
syrup.
about a CBD-infused pillow?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
There's not even one invented. That's an opportunity right there.
That's the next thing that we're coming up with.
Can I get 10%?
Well, I mean, let's negotiate. The tariffs are probably going to affect that.
Art, what do you think about this? Because this guy's a loungy guy. So what do you think about cannabis lounges? Is it a relaxed revolution or a zoning nightmare for city municipalities?
Well, I'll just link it too. I love a good cigar lounge.
Don't you though?
So
I do.
Man, we ain't talking about tobacco today.
I think it'll have the same effect
Yeah.
for guys who want to sit and connect with other people who are ready to light up, get a little high, and share a little. Yeah.
Yeah, Ed, where is that phenomenon? I know that we talked years ago
I have
about
the-
some
They have a couple in
frustrations.
Vegas, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have the only lounge license in Northern Nevada.
Oh, right on. You
Again.
actually have one.
And the beautiful thing about
Right,
that is I can't get the county commissioners to actually acknowledge that it's not going to be a weed-fueled orgy, so they keep voting it down.
Oh, so it's still not
it's
approved.
Not
Approved.
Ah, dang it.
So here's what
What a
I'm going
bunch
to
of
tell you about
bullshit.
this. Cannabis is such a communal experience
Absolutely.
that us scurrying home to consume in the confines of our home is a fallacy. It needs to be the next evolutionary step in regulated marijuana.
Yeah. So now how would that work though? So of course you have intoxication laws.
Yep.
And of course it's against the law to drive while impaired and things like that. So how would a lounge work where somebody would drive out to your place? Is there, say, a waiting period that they have to, they ingest and then they have to wait a period of time before they can leave? How would that work?
Well, I'm a huge fan of responsible adults being responsible adults. Yep. So not unlike when I go to dinner and the guy next to me's had 7 glasses of wine and I don't think he should be in the car.
Mm-hmm.
This is the same premise.
Same exact thing.
My staff, my team will be trained to identify inebriation.
So it's like a BAC card. You have to have your blood alcohol
100%.
content card.
And
Okay.
so then you look at it, CBD is also a beautiful thing because it acts like an antihistamine for THC. So if you've ever had an uncomfortable edible experience, for example, and you take a large dose, let's say 50 milligrams of CBD,
Which is a lot.
that's a therapeutic dose. It will bring you down, and you're not 100% sober, but you're in no means as inebriated as you were 30 minutes prior.
Gotcha.
So Uber, public
Mhm.
transportation,
Mhm.
designated driver.
Yeah.
We regulate inebriation better than any other state in the union, but somehow cannabis inebriation seems foreign.
Ridiculous, right? We're the drinkingest city in the nation here in Reno.
Do they have like saliva tests that they can do in the?
They've done some nice, the interesting
how accurate
dynamic
is that?
It's not super.
Right.
And I'll tell you this, 10 years ago, when we were talking about legalization, they probably wouldn't love it if I said this. I was up at Par Boulevard, went through their driving tests, 3-day process. First day, baseline was sober. Second day, 6-pack. Third day, they said, go over in the corner and do what you do.
They did this as a test that they wanted to see.
They wanted to see. So me and 2 other people do this. I am the best driver. I am
too.
the second best driver, 100% sober. And I definitely shouldn't be on the road after a 6-pack.
No way.
And when, these very inquisitive officers asked, hey, what do you attribute this to? I go, fuck, I've been driving high for the last 40 years, scared out of my mind that you were going to pull me over. 10 and 2, eyes ahead. I
Speed limit.
I typically, to me, the speed limit is a loose.
It's a guideline.
It's a guideline.
It's a guideline. Absolutely.
So I
drive a Challenger, for God's sake.
Yeah, I drive a Vet. So
Yeah.
The speed limit is about 195 in the car, or that's how fast it'll go. And my team can tell, hey, Ed might have had an after shifter because he's driving the speed limit, very attentive. If Ed is 100% lucid, guess what? We're getting there quick.
Mm-hmm.
So in answer to your question, I think we shat the bed when we called it a lounge because, Grady, you have produced and performed more live music than anybody else sitting around this table. Ever been to a event, whether it be Engelbert Humperdinck or tell me the reggae one again.
Oh, Seedless Tendency.
Seedless Tendency. You've never been to an event regardless that there wasn't the waft of cannabis in the air. We've been communally consuming this plant in a social setting forever.
Yeah.
Go down to Pops on the River.
Man, I've never been opposed to hot boxing a porta potty.
just don't step in the blue goo. But
or fall in.
My point, as I demonstrated, Ziggy played Bartley Ranch a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So I went and recorded it.
I wanted to go to that so bad.
I took it to the county and I said, hey guys, remember this is a City of Reno owned property. This isn't fog that rolled in during Ziggy's first set.
Exactly.
So you're concerned and prohibiting consumption at my facility, which is the one facility in Northern Nevada that it makes the most sense to have responsible consumption happening.
Well, and after Ziggy's performance, how many
issues
arrests
were there?
How many arrests or car wrecks were there?
Not a one.
There you go.
Thank you.
Another thing, performed Cali Roots Festival in 2012, and after we performed, we're there for 2 days, and the security, I'm just like, hey, because my raised with law enforcement, parents owned a security company too, and I'm like, how's the crowd? And they're like, we love you guys. This is like way better than the normal concerts. They're like, we've only they said there was 100,000 people. There was only one person arrested. And it was because he was drunk.
Well,
yeah. They said, you guys are the most chill crowd. We love this.
We were at the Sphere last year for, multiple Grateful Dead shows.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Chesney was playing across the street. The Vegas PD was like, we love you guys. You're in bed waiting on a Domino's delivery at 10:15. The guys across the street are bathing in the Venetian pond.
Yeah.
This isn't what people believe it to be. You're relaxing. I'll tell you this, as I told you earlier, I got
back to some of that stigma, right?
100%. I got 2 adult children. One of them, their class in high school was more cannabis oriented. The other one was more alcohol oriented. They would have get-togethers at the house. I'm cleaning all kinds of yumminess out of the backyard pool when it was the alcohol-related deal. My deal was always, hey, guys, I'm coming home at midnight. Take it down to a dull roar. My daughter's class, who liked the herb a little bit more, she'd say, Dad, could I have your visa so that I could buy some pizza? And I get home at 10 o'clock, everybody's crashed out. My son's class, they're frolicking in the backyard, seeing who can, throw up the Coors Light, the farthest. So it's just a completely different experience, but largely, we live life based on fear.
So cannabis lounges, thumbs up. What do you think about the Kelly? How about this? I'm sorry.
I like her.
I said Kelly.
That's okay.
The cannabis delivery drones. Is it progress?
No. Delivery drones are a bad idea.
Yeah.
Period. End of story.
Oh.
I don't want it in the airspace.
Art. Weed strain names. Is it creative branding or just ridiculous now?
Fucking ridiculous.
Hey, you know what? Here's another idea. Like, make a strain called Yo Mama.
Yes.
That's good branding, right?
Hey.
Isn't it? I just thought of that.
You gonna smoke Yo Mama?
Did I have any before I came here? What's going on?
Grady, let me tell you, an answer to the question that we get asked 100 times a day.
Okay.
They come in and say, give me your strongest shit.
Now, that's even better.
So now when you come down to Soul, we have a line of cartridges that says, give me your strongest shit. When people come down, I go, hey, here's my strongest shit. Now, you're probably not going to love it because it's just this distillate, as I previously described. So it's Everclear.
Yeah. But you're giving them what they asked for.
You want it, baby. Here you go.
I like it. That's brilliant marketing right there. Giving what the customers what they ask for.
Right.
All right. So now this next thing, let's see. This is now going to be matters of fact. Okay. So Nevada collected over $68 million in cannabis taxes in the fiscal year 2023. Okay. And I think you mentioned 100 or something like that, or that was back in the COVID days though.
Yeah.
Right. And so number 2, illegal cannabis still outsells legal weed in nearly every legal state.
100%.
Wow. I mean, like there's something like whoever's running this thing is doing something wrong, right?
Yes.
Two
They're
things.
doing something wrong.
One, people that stay with the black market want the naturally grown stuff that isn't adulterated by the corporate.
Yeah.
The other, I think, is they don't want records. You have to give an ID when you go to a dispensary.
Well,
and I think a lot of people, it also ties in with gun ownership.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. Hey, here's one Ed's gonna like. Soul Cannabis is one of the only few dispensaries in a rural area still privately owned.
That's correct.
Federal banking restrictions make it dangerous for legal shops to operate in cash. That's what I was going to ask. So,
that's changed, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, here's the we call it greenback.
Well, that's what they
now
say.
You can use cards now too.
Propaganda.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah,
100% propaganda.
Okay.
They and the other piece of the equation is any bankers out there treat the industry fairly so that when we get full-blown legalization, we actually stick with the banks. Because right now it's 4 or 5 times as expensive to have a green checking account as it is a regular checking account. Now, I do want to touch on something real quick, Grady, because we glazed it. In Nevada, the reason why the black market is so prevalent, gaming does not love us.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so, as an example, Uber can deliver weed to the Strip in Las Vegas, but a regulated shop cannot.
Interesting.
So we've cut off most people go to Las Vegas, they don't rent a car. They go straight to the mega resort and they hang out. So unless you can take a cab over to a dispensary or you just get on Craigslist and you find any one of the 500 people that'll deliver it to you. And so we have made accessing legal marijuana for many of the tourists inaccessible. Also, absent places to consume, we have made it grossly expensive. Get caught smoking some weed in a hotel room, you get a $500 cleaning ticket. And it's like, well, where am I supposed to do this? Walk up and down the Strip. All you smell is marijuana because we haven't given people responsible places to consume. Anyways, and just to clarify one point, Grady, we are the last locally owned and operated and the only organic in Northern Nevada.
Yeah.
I love it. Man.
Darn, are we done?
Well, we could keep going. I can actually, we can pause this one